What? That is jazz made in Cameroon, and it can only be authored by the man they call Richard Bona. Unfortunately, he has said he will not set foot on Cameroonian soil. That's his native Cameroon, right? Until the governance system is changed for good. Now, that was a performance at the 2015 Quincy Jones BBC Proms. It all happened in London. Now, let's shift attention to something else, because mass communication has been a major pedestal in the Catholic Church, and this dates back decades, and I'm talking about 1871, when the first newspaper, Osservatore, something was published. 70 years after, you had the creation of the Vatican Radio and so on. Well, that's just to say, in recent weeks, we've been struggling to lift the lids on the Catholic Church and its policies towards communication and mass communication in particular. We've been accompanied on that journey by Martin Jumbam, who is not only an author, he is also a journalist. And, well, I'll just stop there and say thanks for coming once again.
Well, it's a pleasure's mine, Divine. Always a pleasure. We've been on this journey for quite a while now.
Right. And
it's a good one.
It seems interesting because a couple of people have been reacting. There's
Yes.
several things they didn't know. Many people did not know about the 1831 publication of the first newspaper. Actually,
it's 1864.
1864.
Yes, the Catholic Church had the first newspaper. It's called L'Osservatore Romano. Still
right.
published till today.
Okay.
And it took 70 years after that, for 1931, for the first radio station, Vatican Radio,
All right.
to come online, to go on the air. You know, and so the Catholic Church has been in the media for quite a while, and so with the explosion of the internet later on, we have quite a lot to talk about.
Okay.
But
So,
way back then in 1864, the first newspaper, the Osservatore Romano, was published.
Right. I mean, that's just to say, in short, that the Catholic Church is no stranger to communication.
Certainly not. I mean,
Right.
the Catholic Church has been in communication for a long time. You know, dating back way then. The Vatican Radio in 1931, and in 1960s, 1962 to 65, when the Second Vatican II Council was convened and was in session. One of the conciliar documents that was produced was called Inter Mirifica, and it dealt with mass communication.
Okay.
The Church was quite aware that they could not do without mass communication, and so this Inter Mirifica was a document, was proclaimed by Paul VI, today St. Paul VI, and it so that the Church could not do without the media. Paul VI himself said that the Church would be guilty if it failed to use the media to spread the gospel. So it is, you know, in 1970, about a decade after Vatican II, there was another document called Communio Progressio, which
sounds like progressive communication.
Just saying those lines, exactly. So it saw the need then to re-emphasize the role of mass communication in the Church and in the spread of the gospel.
Okay.
And 1970, you see, we were already at the threshold of the Internet. The Internet was not there yet, but the Church had foreseen that something was going on in the media and wanted to be present. In fact, I think it's John Paul II who said that the Catholic Church should not be afraid to open the doors of the Church to mass communication.
And that's the theme for our discussions today,
yes.
The Catholic Church and the Internet.
That's correct. So that the gospel could be preached from the rooftops of the world, which is a great thing. Okay. And with the coming of the Internet, the Church went full swing into it.
Yeah, that's the Church elsewhere, because the Church in Cameroon has been late in picking up.
To a considerable extent, yes, the Catholic Church in Cameroon has been rather slow, but they are picking up now. We have Radio Veritas here in Douala, which was Cardinal Toumé took the lead in that. It's 15 years now, when you compare 15 years years to
1834.
18, you know.
I mean, the gap is very wide, of
The
course.
gap is really wide.
Yeah.
But you know, it's better there than never. Now we have the no, television Veritas,
Okay.
which is not yet well. It's not seen all over yet, but we hope it will be soon. So it shows that the Catholic Church is making headway, church in Cameroon. But they're still quite lack in that regard, because when you look at the presence of the Catholic Church in other countries in Africa, they're very present.
Okay.
I mean, Amicia, the Association of Member Episcopal Conferences of East Africa,
Right.
is very present in the internet. I love their website, and they are
It's up to date?
up to date
Every
yeah.
day?
Oh my goodness, they are there. And then the Episcopal Conferences of Southern Africa too, they are present, and just about everywhere. In the Central African region, where Cameroon belongs, they call it a CERAC, there's still quite a lot of work
What
to be done.
explains that?
What explains that? I'm not really quite
That
sure.
we have an internet boom. I
Yeah.
mean, in Cameroon, the region as a whole.
That's right.
But the Catholic Church is absent from the net.
Yeah, well, it's timidly present, if you want.
All right.
Not totally absent.
What explains the timid presence, though? Is it a way of concealing secrets?
Oh, not at
Because
all.
you,
Well,
you get scared that you could
what
expose.
secret can you conceal in the world of today, Divine? I mean, everything is out there in the open.
Okay.
It's probably, I'm not quite sure I know what's going on in the Episcopal Conference in Cameroon. And there is a section, a division of the Episcopal Conference of Cameroon that is in charge of the media.
Okay.
And there's a bishop assigned to that. So I'm not quite, I'm not privy to his thoughts on that. But it cannot be said that the church is really present in the media, in cyberspace in Cameroon.
What should be done to get it present?
What should be done? Well, I think the bishops were to ask my opinion. I would say, well, you know, get technicians
Okay.
to tell us what to do, put the church in cyberspace, get journalists, train them, and let them, you know, keep the church, the presence of the church evergreen in cyberspace.
All right.
You know, I'm quite aware of the, you know, the reticence of some of the bishops in that regard. You know, there's always, okay, let's study it, let's see how it goes.
It takes 10 years down the road,
you
and
know,
they're
we're
still
still studying
contemplating.
this, and where you have some of these, you know, the other churches, you know, are very present, very vibrant in the internet, and I think they're reaping the profits from that, which the Catholic Church in Cameroon should also be reaping. But as I say, I'm not privy to their thoughts, but
Okay.
I wish they would be more present in space.
Right. If you're out there and you're watching, you can pitch a project to the Episcopal Conference of Cameroon, right? That's the cluster of bishops of this country. They may just accept your proposal, and there are a lot of startups in Cameroon looking for opportunities like this.
Right on, yeah. And you know, in many other countries, in the US, for example, you have even parishes, you know, have their own websites, their own
Fully
programs,
functional.
Fully functional. I mean, all you need to do if you are attending a parish, if you want to know what's going on in the parish or what is planned for the weekend, you just go to their website and everything is there.
Okay.
You know, but here, well, there's talk of money, no money, and I have a feeling
several
that
conservatives.
I have a
in the
feeling that,
group.
you know, there's always this feeling that, well, let's wait and see, and
All right.
you know, let's see what's going on. And you know, it was the same thing with the radio before Cardinal Toomey started the Radio Veritas.
That was an
15
audacious
years.
move from
Oh
the
yeah, it
emeritus
was, because
Archbishop
I was present and I knew exactly what how he started, and the doubts that we all had in mind. I must admit, many of us, although we were eager to see it on the air, to have it on the air, we're still not quite sure what was going to happen.
Okay.
And the cost too, you know, some of these things are capital-intensive projects, you know, so they demand quite some money.
All right.
But you know, they must be done, in my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you for coming once again.
All right. Divine is
We'll be
always a-
waiting to see you here on Monday next week.
Yes.
We'll probably look at the Catholic Church and publicity.
Okay, yeah, we
Right,
could
I
look
think
at that.
it's a
And,
beautiful follow-up to this.
That's right. And many of these things in the church are regulated by a dicastery in Rome. A dicastery is like a ministry
All right.
in the Roman Curia. The Roman Curia is the government that runs the church with the Pope.
Okay.
So the social communication, means of social communication has been raised now to a level of a dicastery. At first it was like a department
Okay.
in the Curia. Now it's a full-fledged ministry if we are talking of in secular terms.
All right.
Yes,
That will be
the-
synonymous to the Ministry of
with the
Communication. in
Ministry of
Cameroon.
Communication here in
All
our
right.
country, yes. It's
Thanks once
called-
again for coming.
All right, thank you very much.
I'll take
we'll
you
be happy
to territory that's a bit slippery and tricky at the same time, and we're
Yes.
talking about the separatist movement battling the government forces in the English-speaking parts of Cameroon. The struggle is to amputate that part of the country and usher it towards its independence. Now, Chris Anu, because we're talking about the dicastery and ministries, Chris Anu, you probably know him by now. He's the Secretary for Communications at the Ambazonia Federal Interim Government. Now, he says in a July 13th statement that the interim government is fully and wholly in support of the resumption of schools across the blighted northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. But then, read further that statement, he goes on to add that the same interim government cannot guarantee the safety and security of any children paving the paths back to school, because in the prevailing circumstances, parents should be able to ensure that the roads are safe for kids to go back to school and that the campuses are free. He actually heaps blame on the military, the Cameroonian army, for, well, the atrocities, some of them that have seen children hacked, others maimed, some abducted. I mean, it's a two-way thing. The blame trade game is on. But then, where do you stand? Ndi Morin actually took a mic and sampled a couple of opinions for us. And here's what a couple of people had to say on the subject. Should children